How to be witty and funny in conversations. You have to picture this scenario because I know you have lived it. I certainly have. It's a Tuesday night. You are at a dinner party or maybe a networking event, standing in a circle of 3 or 4 people. The conversation is fine. It's polite. Someone is talking about the weather or the traffic on the I-45 or how expensive avocados have gotten. You are nodding, smiling, doing your best to look engaged, but inside, your brain is flatlining. It is completely silent. Then, suddenly, that one person, let's call him Dave, interjects. He says something quick, maybe only 5 words, and the whole circle explodes. Everyone laughs. The energy shifts instantly. Dave didn't just make a joke. He created a moment. He looks effortless, charismatic, and magnetic. And you are standing there thinking, how did he do that? Why couldn't I think of that? And the worst part? The worst part happens 3 hours later. You're at home, brushing your teeth, staring at yourself in the mirror, and suddenly, boom, the perfect line hits you. The wittiest, funniest thing you could have said to the avocado comment. But it's too late. The French call this l'esprit de l'escalier, or staircase wit. The perfect comeback that you think of only when you're on the way out the door. For most of my life, I thought this was a genetic trait. I thought people like Dave were just born with a funny bone, and the rest of us were destined to be the polite nodders of the world. But I was wrong. I spent the last year deconstructing what actually makes someone witty, studying stand-up comedians, improv actors, and social psychologists. And what I found is that wit isn't magic. It isn't a superpower. It is a system. It is a series of habits and mental frameworks that anyone can learn. So, if you are tired of the staircase wit and want to be the person who lights up the room in real time, you need to understand the mechanics of the laugh. Let's start with the biggest misconception. Being funny doesn't mean you have to be the loudest person in the room. In fact, the wittiest people are often the quietest listeners. This brings us to the first pillar of wit: observation over presentation. Most of us, when we are in a conversation, are not really listening. We are just waiting for our turn to speak. We are rehearsing our next line. If you are doing that, you cannot be witty. Why? Because wit is almost always a reaction to the immediate reality. Think about the structure of a joke. It relies on something called the incongruity theory. This is the idea that humor happens when a pattern is established and then abruptly broken. Your brain predicts X, but you give it Y. Let's look at a practical technique called the specificity twist. When we make small talk, we tend to speak in generalities. Someone asks, "How was your weekend?" And you say, "It was good. I just relaxed." That is a conversation killer. A witty person takes that same question and adds a hyper-specific, slightly absurd detail. Instead of "it was good," they say, "It was great, until I spent 4 hours trying to assemble a bookshelf that I'm pretty sure was designed by an enemy of the state." See the difference? You established a normal premise, the weekend was great, and then twisted it with hyper-specific misery. Relatable misery is the gold standard of conversational humor. This leads me to the second tool in your kit, which I call the improv mindset, or more commonly known as yes and. In improvisation, you never deny the reality someone else builds. You accept it and add to it. If you're at a coffee shop and the barista hands you a cup that is overflowing, a normal reaction is to say, "Whoops, messy." A witty reaction accepts the mess and escalates it. You might say, "Thanks. I was actually hoping to wear this coffee today instead of drinking it." You are taking the situation, the spill, and framing it as an intentional choice. This is irony. It signals to people that you don't take life too seriously, and that is an incredibly attractive quality. But let's get into the heavy artillery. The absolute strongest tool for conversational wit is the callback. If you want to seem like a genius in a conversation, this is how you do it. A callback is simply referencing a topic or a joke that happened earlier in the conversation. Imagine 10 minutes ago, your friend Sarah mentioned she is terrified of pigeons. The conversation moves on. You're talking about your upcoming job interview. You're nervous. Instead of just saying, "I hope I don't mess up," you use a callback. You say, "I'm pretty nervous. I just hope the interviewer isn't a pigeon, or Sarah will have to wait in the car." Why does this work so well? because it creates an inside joke feeling. It rewards the people who are paying attention. It makes the group feel tighter, more connected, and it proves that you are listening. Remember, you can't make a callback if you weren't listening in the first place. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if I try to be funny and nobody laughs? What if I bomb? This is the fear that keeps us boring. But here's the secret about conversational bombing. Nobody cares as much as you do. If you make a quip and it lands to silence, the witty person doesn't panic. They acknowledge the failure. Self-deprecation is your safety net. If you tell a joke and it's dead silent, you can simply say, "Wow, tough crowd. I'll just see myself out." Or, note to self, never tell that joke again. By making fun of your own failure, you win the room back instantly. You show vulnerability. And vulnerability is the cousin of wit. The most insufferable people are the ones who try to be funny to prove they are superior. The most lovable people use humor to show they are human, flawed, and just trying to get through the day like everyone else. There is also a distinctive rhythm to wit. It's about brevity. Shakespeare said, "Brevity is the soul of wit," and he was right. Over-explaining kills the joke. If you have to say "get it" afterwards, you have already lost. Trust the audience's intelligence. Deliver the line and stop. Let the silence do the work. The confidence to sit in that half-second of silence before the laughter hits is what separates the amateurs from the pros. Let's talk about tone. You can say the exact same sentence, but depending on your delivery, it can come off as mean or hilarious. This is where the benign violation comes in. Humor often attacks something, a social norm, a person, a situation, but it has to be benign. It has to be safe. If you make fun of your friend's shirt, that's just mean. But if you make fun of your own shirt, saying you look like a couch from the 1970s, that is funny. If you tease your friend, it has to be about something they are secure about. So, how do you practice this? You don't start by trying to do a stand-up set at your next board meeting. You start small. Start with the unexpected answer. When the cashier asks if you want the receipt, don't just say no. Say, "No thanks. I'm trying to leave no paper trail." It's a tiny, low-stakes joke. It might get a chuckle, it might not, but it gets you in the habit of breaking the script. Then, practice associative thinking. This is a brain exercise you can do alone. Look at an object, say, a toaster. What do you associate with it? Burnt bread, bathtubs, Pop-Tarts, the brave little toaster, fire hazards. The more you train your brain to make these rapid connections, the faster you will be in conversation. Wit is essentially the speed at which you can connect two unrelated ideas. And finally, consume better content. If you want to be funny, you have to watch funny. But don't just watch passively. Analyze. Watch a clip of a talk show host, like Conan O'Brien or Graham Norton. Watch how they interact with guests. Notice when they interrupt, and more importantly, when they don't. Notice how they take a boring story from a guest and ask one question that flips it on its head. Becoming witty is a journey of becoming more present. It is about stepping out of your own head, stopping the worry about how you look, and engaging fully with the world around you. It's about finding the absurdity in the mundane. It's about realizing that life is actually incredibly funny if you stop taking it so seriously. So the next time you are in that circle and the silence starts to creep in, don't panic. Listen. Wait for the pattern. Find the twist. And if all else fails, just admit that you have absolutely nothing to say. Because honestly, that's usually pretty funny too. Go out there, take a risk, and let yourself be a little ridiculous. You might just find that the world likes you better that way.